ever looked at the visage of the world, glittering with prosperity, tippling with the euphoria of authority, and maddened with the craving for affluence? Alas, the face of the world is not unblemished. It bears the painful wound with the stains of ignorance and poverty. The agonizing cries for existence make this wound even more painful. Devoid of the mercy of God, deprived of human sympathy, the agonizing cries for existence make this wound even more painful. In the exhausting race for a living, these souls have been left far behind, crumpled and thrown away. They live in a neglected corner of the world. We don't know of their life. We don't know of their numbers. We ignore them as if they were not human beings. Panting for a handful of food, gasping for a mouthful of water. When life becomes unbearable, they die a silent death. Who would face the challenge of such a worm-like life and grim death? 1 in a million. An eccentric? No, an angel. With his touch, pain subsides. Dark pathways are brightened. Withering lives are restored to normalcy. This is that touch. It fights death, crouching at every footstep. It rescues people from the portals of death. It has made friends with cruel adversities. It has plunged headlong and immersed itself wholeheartedly into the desperate business of just existing regardless of everything else. Clothed in a modest vest and plain cotton trousers barely long enough, this quiet and reserved human being has for the past 30 long years in the wilderness of the distant forest been standing steadfast on his convictions and has been working ceaselessly. Working to bring God's touch to the unfortunate human beings whom society has forgotten. In applying the soothing salve on the wounds of Adivasis, he has been so deeply immersed in alleviating this suffering that he has had not even a moment's time to ask for help from others. Dr. Prakash Amte and his wife, who has followed him like his shadow for life, Dr. Manda Amte. This is the story of their pious, dedicated and modest life. Not just a story, call it a thriller if you like. A dense forest situated on the borders of Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh and Andhra Pradesh, totally segregated from the world around. The path was hurdled by 6 rivers without bridges to cross them, no roads either. This was home to the most backward of the tribals, the Madia Gonds. They ruled this jungle. Abject poverty, lack of education and total absence of medical facilities, these were the woes of their life. It was a strange world, severed from the surrounding regions and submerged in the swamps of forest darkness. Nobody ever knew it was inhabited. A man with an indomitable tenacity set his feet firmly in this horrible territory. Baba Amte was his name. The man has transformed a barren land into Anandwan. He decided to help the Madia tribals to initiate a new project for them. Several hands came into action with this resolve. On the banks of the river Indravati in the village Hemalkasa, Baba erected his first hut. He named his dream Lok Biradari Prakalp. In 1973, the government offered this project some land, and Baba's younger son Prakash offered his word. Begin with your work and I shall shoulder every responsibility that follows. March 1974. Dr. Prakash gave up his internship for Master of Surgery and Dr. Manda gave up her government job. 30 years have passed by. The world has changed. The path to Hemalkasa is still not an easy one. Hemalkasa is situated in a remote corner of Maharashtra. 200 kilometers of a desolate path after one leaves Chandrapur. Awesome rivers to cross. Overwhelming deepness and darkness of the jungle. A serpentine path that leads you away from the world bragging of the 21st century. A path to an abysmal world. About 3 kilometers before village Bhamragad in Gadchiroli district, towards your right, you come across a familiar signboard. These are the camps in the courtyard of the Lok Biradari, campsites of suffering and sorrow. This silent night at Hemalkasa has swallowed immense grief in its bowels. Nevertheless, the dawn here is both cheerful and fresh. It marks the beginning of a day with the touch of dedicated activity. The eyes filled with doubt and disbelief today eagerly await the arrival of Bhau and Tai, brother and sister to them. Manda Tai begins her OPD before 9 o'clock in the morning. All these faces await her eagerly. Manda Tai's ability to talk in the local dialect establishes her rapport at once. These suffering faces, some troubled by ascites, some troubled by tuberculosis. The leg of one has been eaten by a tiger. Another one, mauled by a bear, has a severe wound on his back. Most of them suffer from malaria. Cancer? Yes, it is present, and now even AIDS has made its presence felt. Yet none of the eyes would speak of pain. These slight frames can walk 100 kilometers even when one leg is affected by gangrene.